everyone. I'm Scott Pantel, CEO of LSI, and it's my privilege today to have Lloyd Diamond, CEO of Pixium Vision. Pixium Vision is one of our presenting companies at our upcoming Emerging Medtech Summit. Lloyd, welcome.
Hey, Scott, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, Lloyd, you've been in industry for quite a while. You've been with several successful companies, currently with Pixium. Can you get us current, maybe give us a quick background on where you've been and let us know where you're at today with Pixium?
Sure. Sorry, can we cut for a second? Somebody
Sure.
just opened the door when you asked me the question.
No problem. We'll do that.
Told me they were leaving, and then I lost.
It's good.
Okay, that's my screw up. Take two.
Take
ask
two.
Ask the question again. This might be an hour, Scott. Go ahead.
That's okay. No, it's good. Okay. So, Lloyd, you've been in the industry forever. I've been going through your profile, have led several successful ventures. You're currently with Pixium Vision. Give us a quick background on your 25 plus year history in medtech, and then let's talk about Pixium and get us current with what's going on there.
Sure. Yeah, so, I probably have, I don't know, maybe a typical trajectory like a lot of folks in the space, but I started my career, working for big companies. I was at Zimmer when Bristol Myers Squibb owned them. For those that are my age, they'll remember back in the day when pharmaceutical companies used to actually own medical device companies. This is going back a long time. But then gradually I kind of migrated out west to Silicon Valley and got a taste of startups, back in the 2000s. Worked for a couple of companies in the disruptive technology space, medical device. One was Kyphon, and many that know Kyphon know the successful exit that that company had with Medtronic. And then went on to another company in the laser urology space called LaserScope. We sold that asset to AMS, which eventually then sold the asset to Boston Scientific. So sort of disruptive technology space. Spent a lot of time also in Europe, was involved in another startup that we actually prepared for an IPO, which eventually went public on NASDAQ OMX. Back to California, invested some money in some other startups myself, and then made my way back here to Europe and Paris, where I've been the CEO of Pixium since May of 2019. And it's been actually a great ride so far over the last 18 months. We've made some really good progress, and it's an exciting technology. So with an excellent team. So I'm glad to be on board here.
Yeah, and we look at a lot of companies, and yours in particular caught my attention. And I'll just pull something from sort of your statement, which is bionic vision for those who have lost their sight. So tell us what you're going after, and is that really the mission? It seems like quite a lofty goal.
It's a very ambitious mission, but extremely important and necessary. So what we mean by that is exactly what we say. We are using machine-brain interface technology at the level of the retina, right, in the back of the eye, to restore vision for people that have actually lost it. Our primary target indication is the dry form of age-related macular degeneration. And for those that know the ophthalmology space, and more specifically retinal degenerative disease, they know that the retinal degenerative market is a minefield full of technologies and drugs and therapies that have tried to find a solution for dry AMD in particular, but have not exactly succeeded. And so, what we're excited about, maybe just a brief word, is that while a lot of the other therapies, and I'm thinking medical therapies now, whether they be drugs, anti-VEGF, gene therapy, stem cell therapy, what they've tried to do is either slow down or reverse the progression of the disease. We have a very different perspective in that we say that's fine, but as this is a degenerative disease, as people live long enough, they eventually will go on to become blind. It's very debilitating for them because they're an older population. They become very dependent on others. They become very sedentary. And then there is just a general decline in health, overall health. So what we do is we say once they go blind, we will use our technology to restore some level of central vision, which is the vision that's most affected in dry AMD, which then will give them back some quality of life thanks to the independence they will regain.
Fascinating, fascinating. So tell us about key milestones. Let's talk about recent milestones, fundraising situation. Are you guys raising capital? If so, tell us, share with us what you can with that regard.
Sure. So as far as recent milestones, we announced that we actually received approval here in Europe to begin our final pivotal study. The name of the study is Primavera. We actually started recruiting patients at the end of last year. And we plan on continuing recruitment and implantation of patients throughout this year. You know, COVID, of course, is always an interesting topic. I'm sure you'll ask the question, so I might as well nip it in the bud right now. And that is that, you know, of course, COVID has an impact on these things here in Europe, similar to the US. You guys have been observing what's been happening here. And given that we are targeting an older patient population that's considered at higher risk for COVID, you know, that's presented some challenges. But the good news is that group of patients are the first to get vaccinations. And so then they're the first to kind of get back out and about. And so, you know, we have some hope that we're going to, you know, begin to see the benefit of that and continue to accelerate inclusion and recruitment in our Primavera study. We hope then to finish implantation sometime by the end of this year into first quarter of next, if the recruitment goes as planned. And then sometime by the end of 2022, we would have the data readout for that study, which then would give us the data for the filing of the CE mark. So Primavera and inclusion of patients has really been the biggest short-term milestone that I can talk about. Regarding financing that, because as everybody knows, the viewers and those that have experience in the med tech world, clinical trials are expensive. Even though ours isn't a very big trial, we only requiring 38 patients in the trial, but they're expensive. And so funding is always required. The good news is we have some really good cornerstone investors in our share capital in Pixium that have continued to support the company. We did a recent raise over the summer, a secondary. So, you know, the company has cash through the end of the year. So we're financed. And we will continue to look for funds as we move forward in the trial. Maybe one other point I'd mention, Scott, is we also announced publicly to the markets that the company is combining with Second Sight, which used to be a competitor of ours, strangely enough, but now actually is quite complementary in technology. We're actually combining with them, and in conjunction with that business combination, we are raising a minimum of $25 million in a PIPE transaction associated with that combination. So.
Fantastic. Exciting times. You guys have a lot going on. It's glad to hear, very happy to hear about all the progress. So the meeting's a couple months away, and I would imagine there are also strategic discussions that are happening currently and perhaps some new ones that may begin happening. What can you share with us with regard to strategic partnerships and sort of along those lines?
Sure. So, you know, obviously, as I said, we're in the final stage of clinical work here in Europe. In the US, we have a feasibility study ongoing. So, you know, the US regulatory pathway will be somewhat predicated on what we do here in Europe. But as we get closer to a commercialization, you know, the question does beg itself, you know, do we do this on our own, or do we look at commercial partners in the ophthalmology space that are looking for a technology platform in dry AMD? I believe most would be, because there's no therapy really that's applicable for that particular indication. So, you know, we haven't honestly actively been in discussions with strategics just because of where we are in our development pathway. But of course, strategics have shown interest. And so, the timing here over the next 12 months will be right to start seriously considering having those discussions. One other point I would mention is that we've been getting good guidance on strategics just because the head of Medtronic Europe, Middle East and Africa, actually sits on our board, Rob, and so we already have quite a bit of input and thought behind how the larger strategics look at technologies such as ours in the stage that we're in, and the expectations of those companies when looking at partnerships and et cetera. So definitely within the next 12 months, this will be an important part of our strategy.
That's great. So Lloyd, as I mentioned earlier, we see a lot of companies. We were attracted to yours, not only because of the technology, but frankly, because of the management team and your leadership that's been put together. And so we're very, very much looking forward to having you at the event. What are your expectations? I know you have a lot of choices. There are many events that you could go pitch your event at, whether it's virtual or in person, as some of these events start to open up. But what attracted you to this event? What are you expecting from us? Put me on the hook here.
Well, first of all, I mean, the title, Emerging Medtech Summit, I imagine the summit isn't emerging, it's the medtech that is. And that really fits, that fits what we are, right? On a more serious note, it's hard to find, I think, venues where the primary objective is bringing together companies that are really on the cutting edge in medtech. And the reason I say that, and it's not an arrogant statement I'm going to make, but the reason I say that is being in the medtech world for as long as I have and many others, you don't really see truly disruptive technologies. You see a lot of technologies that improve on already existing therapies or technologies, but you don't see truly disruptive technologies. And I think it's important to give companies such as ours a forum to interact, first of all, with other peers in the same situation, in the same process of development. I think it's also important to bring together companies such as ours with those larger strategics and others so that we have an ability to interact, not because we wouldn't otherwise, but because the daily grind makes it such that we just don't always take the time to do so. So I think that's another, second important aspect. And then third, from our perspective, the timing is such that as we announced in our pending business combination with Second Sight, we hope to close the transaction sometime in Q2, in a recent press release that we issued. And so the timing will also be right for us to sort of come out as now a U.S. sort of listed company combined with another company on the U.S. markets. So it's, I guess, a sort of coming to maturity event for us as well.
That's terrific. Lots going on, and I hope that our event can in some way, play a part of this growth and this vision that you guys have. We're really looking forward to hearing more at the event. So, Lloyd, before we get to the mandatory COVID question, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, which includes, a lot of investors, strategics, and other innovators, as you pointed out?
Yeah, I think, this is going to be my sort of CEO pitch. I think for whatever reason, one or the other, Pixium has been somewhat underappreciated, I'd say, from the investment community. Part of it is because we're a pre-revenue medtech company that's listed on the French exchange, Euronext. The markets here in Europe are a lot more conservative. They tend to be, less liquid with respect to smaller cap companies. And I just think the opportunity that the U.S. will afford us, at least the U.S. capital market and investment ecosystem, we hope to get a better appreciation for what we do, which is truly disrupting the blindness space. It's very rare that you come across a technology that's shown some initial positive clinical results that is truly disruptive in a space where there's really no medical therapy. And again, I want to raise awareness for that. I mean, dry AMD, while everybody is talking about it, especially in ophthalmology, it's sort of the last frontier. We have to remember that there's 160 million patients around the world that suffer with this. And as we get older, we all one day might be there. I mean, there's a high probability that we might be there. And if you live long enough, as I said earlier, you can progress to blindness. And that's a terrible thing. And so, I think that the world owes it to companies like us. I mean, nobody likes to say that, but I'm going to be so bold as to say it, to ensure that we're successful in our mission, because it's an important one.
That's great. And we this is a massive market that you guys are going after. We've done quite a bit of research in this space. You have lofty goals, but you obviously have the technology and the team in place. So we're rooting for you, and we look forward to seeing how things progress. So now I'm gonna shift gears to the situation we've all been dealing with over the course of the last year has been kept us all on our toes, but there's been some silver linings that have come out of it. And so I'd like to know, it can be personal, professional, both, and you touched on it a bit earlier, but silver linings of the last 12 months, what have you seen?
Yeah, first let me start with the human aspect of it, maybe on the personal front, and then with respect to the team here at Pixium. I've actually, it's been an opportunity to draw people closer, and I know that sounds silly because we've been distanced in many ways, so let me explain what I mean. First of all, I think me personally, it's given me the opportunity to draw closer with my family just because I'm not flying 250,000 miles a year. Now that's not revolutionary. Everybody you're interviewing is probably saying the same thing, but it definitely forced me to be more present with family, especially during a time which has been very important in the life of my family, because I have I have children now that are going to become college students, and that's a whole big life change and all that. So on the personal note, I've seen that somewhat positive. Although I understand, and even for us personally, COVID has impacted us personally, and it has, on that side, I realize a lot of people have suffered through this. So I don't mean to make light of it, but certainly that's been positive for us. On the employee side, it has forced us to communicate differently and better. And what I mean by that is, we're a team of 33 people, 32 here in France, 1 in the US. And, when you were in the office, and down in the lab, you were in close proximity, but you might as well have been 10,000 miles away because, you were sitting near each other, but you didn't necessarily communicate. When all of this happened, we made an effort to say every week we're getting on a Zoom call or a Teams call, and we're just going to give brief updates from the management team and then an open forum for the employees to express any questions, concerns, whatever. And that has been excellent for us, because the feedback from the employees and others on the team is that, it's great to see that we're so open in how we share news, positive, negative, whatever the struggle is of the day, that in many ways we feel more like a team. So I'd say that's the silver lining on the human personal front. I put, however, maybe a bit of an aside. I'm going to put here parentheses, and that is that with the exception of the new people that we've had to hire, because we're a growing team, right? We're moving through clinical trials. That's been a bit of a challenge, because when you have a new person, it's harder for them to feel part of a team virtually. But nonetheless, at least we've been communicating with them, and we're slowly sort of working on that. On the operational and fundraising front, it's actually been quite good for us. And again, this might be something that's not obvious, but had we been a commercial stage company that was generating revenue, COVID probably would have been catastrophic to us, because we would have become dependent on revenue in an early stage of the company and been in a growth mode, and revenue slows down, but you can't cut the spending fast enough. And I think a lot of companies have found themselves in that situation. We were pre-revenue, we are pre-revenue. And so we've been living on a shoestring for years. We know what that is. And we took advantage, quite honestly, of the fiscal policies that have that the French government, that the US government has put in place for companies such as us to have access to loans that were backed by the government, low interest loans. We were able to, during the pandemic, over the summer when Europe, much of Europe was in lockdown, we were able to go out and raise more money in a secondary. There was a lot of retail trading going on because people were home and they were, selling stocks, buying stocks. So we took a little bit of advantage of that volatility as well. And so we actually came out financially stronger because of that. So I'd say that there was a silver lining on the financing side. And then operationally, it gave us the opportunity to sort of maybe regroup a bit, cut some of the waste, create some efficiency, right? Because when you're working virtually, you have to be more efficient. And I think, the company's stronger and the better for it. So.
That's great. I love it. What a great conversation, and timing's everything, right? And you're reinforcing what we've heard from others in your position, which is that this, being an early stage company and the ability to be nimble during these times has been a huge asset compared to some of the larger companies that don't have the luxury to move as quickly. So congratulations. And again, I tip my hat to you with all that you're doing. We're really looking forward to having you and hearing more. I'm sure you saved some surprises that will be announced at the event, no doubt. I would just want to restate this bionic vision for those who have lost their sight. What an ambitious goal, what a noble goal and aspiration that you guys are going after, and you have our full support. So Lloyd Diamond, CEO, Pixium Vision, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple months.
Thanks, Scott. I look forward to it. Take care.